Welcome to Mind Prosperity, everybody. It's so great to do a very interesting and well-prepared session with you guys today. So today we're going to speak about emotional self-regulation. So let's start with this thought. What is an emotion? Now, there's a Latin word, animi motus. Not sure if I'm pronouncing it 100% right, but animi motus. And that is the Latin word for emotion, and that means a movement in the mind. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but when something moves in your mind, something moves in your feeling. Most of the time when something moves in your feeling, something moves in your body. You know, there's a little response. I don't know why I did this. It's not part of the metaphor, but your mind influences your emotions. When there's a movement in your mind, there's an influence in your emotion, there's an influence in your feeling. When there's an influence in your emotion or an influence in your feeling, a lot of times there's a movement in your action. I don't know if you guys have ever been to that place, not physically in your mind, where you had a thought, where you had an idea, where you had an imagination, it caused an emotion, and your emotion caused a bad reaction. Later you had to go back and say, listen, I shouldn't have done it like that. And the reason for that is emotional self-regulation wasn't where it was supposed to be. So emotion is a movement in the mind, or emotions start with a movement in the mind that causes other emotions. So the first time I had the opportunity to steer a boat was also the last time I had an opportunity to steer a boat, because there was this rudder, like just behind you. I don't know, they didn't use the normal steering wheel, they used this rudder. So in my head, when you push this thing to the right, the boat is supposed to go to the right. Right? Or when you pull this thing to the left, the boat is supposed to go to the left, right? That didn't happen. I think if you go look at the mechanics, maybe you can figure it out. But if you push it to the right, for some reason the boat goes to the left. If you push it to the left, the boat goes to the right. And I didn't steer very well. Luckily I didn't hurt somebody, but I didn't steer very well. Luckily I didn't run into something. Is that what you call it? I know you call it with a car, run into something. What do you call it with a boat? You sail. But I didn't have any sails on. Float. You float into something. I didn't break anything. Okay, but because people was afraid that I might, today I love just sitting on boats, relaxing, chilling, sitting on a boat. That's the best for my emotion. And the reason I was not allowed anymore is because I couldn't steer it very well. And I didn't understand how to steer that boat. And it's the same with your emotions, it's the same with your mind. When a thought or thinking or imagination causes something in the emotion that causes an action, you have to learn how to steer that. You have to learn how to self-regulate that. So how do we self-regulate? I'm going to give you 3 things today in this teaching, in this video, on how to self-regulate that I hope will help you. So number 1, be aware of triggers. Be aware of triggers. So what is a trigger? An emotional trigger is anything, including memories, experiences, or events that sparks an intense emotional reaction regardless of your current mood. So what happens? Something happens. Maybe it's in real life, or it's a thought, or somebody just says something that you misinterpret, or you don't see it the way that they meant it, and it causes an emotional reaction that is not okay. Like the emotional reaction is a little bit or maybe way bigger than what it should be. That is a trigger. And then you realize every single time somebody brings up this topic, or every single time this happens, I have an emotional trigger. I have an intense response that scares people, because the way I steered the boat scared people. Sometimes you have a response that scares people. People feel like, whoa, we have to be very, very careful around you, because emotions aren't managed well. Emotions aren't self-regulated. Now, I think we all have these areas. I'm not saying, some people struggle with this and some people are managing it very well. What I am thinking is some people manage it well in certain areas and some people struggle in other areas. So I'm going to use an example. This is not a real example. Maybe it might be real for you. I don't know, but this is not aimed at somebody specifically. But maybe you are very, very okay with your education, but you're not okay with the way you look. So when it comes to education and when it comes to information, you don't feel insecure. People can say things that doesn't really bother you. But if people say something about the way you look, you are triggered and you get angry. That shows you are secure in one area, but maybe insecure in another area. You are more self-regulated and self-assured in one area, but you're struggling a bit in another area. When it comes to triggers, it's important to know what triggers you, because if you don't know what triggers you, it gets difficult to self-regulate. So According to Gilead and Hart, generally speaking, when people feel insecure, either dispositional, that means because of chronic anxiety, or situational, that is due to life events or experimental manipulations, they tend to be more defensive, rigid, aggressive, and sensitive to emotional threats. That means when you cannot regulate your triggers, you get aggressive, you get rigid, your emotions get to a place where we can say it's not okay. So this is a sign. This is a sign when you see triggers, this is a sign that something has to be done. Now, for a lot of people, because of maybe how they grew up, or because of maybe what they are used to, they don't know it's a trigger, or they don't know it's an emotional response that's not okay. Because maybe mom acted this way, maybe dad acted this way, maybe everybody that I know acts this way. So I think this emotional trigger is normal. And I think it's sometimes okay to, maybe to ask some people, is it okay if I react like this emotionally? Did I maybe overreact in that sense? I'm not saying you should ask everybody, but we have people that are mentors to us. We have people that are close to us that can help us with these things. So emotional triggers is the first thing that you should look at when it comes to emotional self-regulation. And then the second thing is self-awareness. So that's number 2, self-awareness. You are aware that these are some situations, or these are some things that are causing me to be triggered in my emotions in a certain way, or these are some things that are causing me to respond in an emotional, unhealthy way. That is self-awareness. Gandhi said, "Our greatness lies not as much as being able to remake the world, but to remake ourselves." So many people are trying to change other people. They want the world to change, and that's a good thing. We want a better world. I think it's Michael Jackson that said that, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. Okay, so before I quote the whole Michael Jackson song, which I'm very, very tempted to do, Gandhi said, focus on yourself before you try to focus on the world. So many people try to change the world, and that's a good thing. It's a great thing to have a great impact in the world. But I think fewer people are coming to that place where they say, listen, I have to emotionally self-regulate. I have to look at my emotions. I have to look at my emotional reactions. And I really have to work on this. So when we look at the definition of self-awareness, self-awareness is a process where the individual focuses within and make self-comparison with the goal of better self-knowledge and improvement. The core is an ability to focus attention inward and study oneself. What self-awareness is basically is I know where I want to go, meaning I have a goal, I have a vision, I have this idea of the person that I really would like to be, and I know where I am, and I know the gap. There's a gap between where I am right now and where I want to be. And one of the most dangerous things in bettering yourself, in healing yourself, and getting to a good place is to think you are okay. I don't know about you, but I meet so many people still today who are really not okay, but they think they are so okay. So one of the first steps is to say, listen, I have a goal to better myself. That doesn't mean I don't love myself. That doesn't mean I don't care about myself. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person, but it does mean I do want to better myself. So I have a goal, have a vision, then I'm aware of what's going on the inside of me. What is the gap between where I want to be and where I am? And in that self-awareness, you can make some goals to grow and to better yourself. Daniel Goleman said, "Know thyself is a keystone to emotional intelligence, awareness of one's own feelings and thoughts as they occur." So you think about your feelings, that's called meta-mood. You think about your thoughts, that's metacognition. So you ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Not just, this is how I feel. It starts with that, this is my trigger, this is how I feel. But then asking yourself, why do I feel like this? What are my thoughts about what am I feeling, of what I am feeling? That is self-awareness. So if you get to that place of self-awareness, you can grow. And that brings us to point number 3. But before I go there, I want to say to you, I do sessions in businesses, in groups, with families, with individuals on emotional intelligence, on mindset. I have these 2 amazing booklets that are sessions that I'm doing in businesses, in many other areas, many other topics that we are covering. So if you want to know more, if you want to personally contact me, my email address will be on the screen. Please email me and I will speak to you more, or go visit our website. Our website has a lot of information about us, about me, what I'm doing, and also how you can get more of our products, even online sessions. So go check that out. And if you believe these messages can help people, please share this video, please leave a comment, please like, please subscribe, ring the bell so that we can give you more content. It's not so that it can help us, it's giving us the opportunity to help you and to serve you better. Okay, so last point, number 3. Remember, we did identifying your triggers, we did self-awareness, and now we're going to come to number 3, self-control. Well done, you guessed it right. Okay, so now that you are aware of what's going on, now you have the opportunity to have self-control, or now you have the opportunity to self-regulate. So let's look at what self-control is. So according to Duckworth in 2011, common thread of conceptualization on self-control is the idea of effortful regulation of the self by the self. Self-controlled individuals do not give in to their impulses, but they can regulate their emotions, behavior, and attentional impulses to achieve long-term goals. So what it's basically saying when we speak about regulating the self by the self, you know, this is not just I have to control my addiction, or I have to control my habit. That's more addiction control, if we can say that, or habit control. Self-control is something different. It's not just I want to control my addiction. So self-control is something different. Self-control is not just I want to control my addiction or I want to control my habit. Self-control is I want to control the self. So what is the difference? Addiction control is saying something like, I have this addiction, I want to control it, I'm going to try very hard to control it. Okay. Self-control is looking within yourself and asking, why do I have that addiction in the first place? Why do I have that need in the first place? Now I can take a step back, objectify it, look at it, and deal with it. And that is where you can use the self to regulate the self, and that's why self-control is so important. So if people say I don't have self-control, what they normally mean is I don't want to eat the cookie, I don't want to, you know, whatever, but I keep on doing this, and that's good. But to go back and to say, but why am I doing this? Why do I have this need? What is maybe something that lacks within me? That doesn't mean you're an empty human being, but that just means there are some areas in your life that maybe needs more filling, that maybe needs more working, and that's where self-control at the end of the day comes in. And then Carl Jung, and I want to end with this, said, there is no cure and no improving of the world that does not begin with the individual himself. And I want to add this again. So many people want others to change. So many people want the world to change. Like John Mayer said, we're waiting on the world to change. And that's a good thing. I think there are a lot of things in the world that can change to make the world a better place. But it starts with every single individual. So here is my encouragement for you today. Start with you. Thank you so much for watching. From Mind Prosperity, we love you, and we will see you soon again. Goodbye.